Amen. Hey, if you got a Bible, I hope you do. Can you go to 1 Timothy chapter 6? 1 Timothy chapter 6 is where we're going to be today. We kicked off a series last Sunday. Pastor Jeff kicked it off. We're looking at verse 17 through 19 in 1 Timothy chapter 6. We're talking about money. What does the Word of God say about how it is that we'd handle money and interact with it? So last week, Jeff kicked it off. This week, I'll share with you again next week. And we're using just these three verses. Verse 17, 18, and 19 is kind of the primary text for what we're doing. Last week, we looked at verse 17. Today, we got verse 18. And then next week, we'll be looking at verse 19. So let me just read to you the entire three verses, and then we're going to jump into this and talk together, and we'll end by taking communion together, Lord's Supper. It says this, verse 17, "As for the rich in this present age, charge them not to be haughty," or you could say arrogant, "not to set their hopes on the uncertainty of riches, but on God, who richly provides us with everything to enjoy. They are to do good, to be rich in good works, to be generous and ready to share, thus storing up treasure for themselves as a good foundation for the future, so that they may take hold of that which is truly life." All right, so this is our verses. Like I said, we're going to do verse 17. Today we're going to cover verse 18, and then next week we'll end up in verse 19. Let me rehash what Jeff talked about last week so that we're all kind of on the same page. Go back to verse 17, and it begins by saying this, "As for the rich in this present age." Let's stop right there. So Paul is writing to actually this young pastor Timothy, giving some instruction, and the instruction is about those who are rich in this today, this present age. And we hear that word rich, and we can struggle with this word rich. And actually the word rich shows up multiple times in these verses. It shows up as a noun, verb, and adjective, the word rich. But we struggle with this rich. In fact, actually, and I'll show you in a moment, Jesus had a lot to say to those who are rich, and it's almost always negative. Rich. But we really struggle, I struggle with this word rich in this present age. Like, does this apply to me? Because the reality is this, and this might be true for you, I never feel rich. Like, reality might be it is true, but I don't feel rich. You know, the World Bank says that just thinking globally, the global poverty line is $3 a day. If you make less than $3 a day, then you're in poverty. If you make more than that, then you are not. The reality is we are rich, but we don't always feel rich. In fact, I was thinking about my life. I can only think of one time that I ever felt rich. Let me tell you about it. I was 17 years old. It actually came because right after I was broke. So I'm 17 years old. It's July between my junior and senior year of high school. I just gotten a girlfriend, Carissa. I would marry her, but I just gotten a girlfriend. We've been dating probably 2 weeks. It's July of that summer. And I had a whopping $17 to my name. No joke. My bank account is zero. I have $17 in my back pocket in my wallet. And I'd actually just gotten a job. It's a Friday. On Monday, I had started a job. This guy in the church that I grew up in had given me a job helping him flip houses. He would buy houses and then fix them up and sell them. So I was the grunt man, just trash, junk, kind of stuff like that. But I wouldn't get paid until a week from that Friday. So I have to work 2 weeks, then I'd finally get a paycheck. So I got $17. It's Friday night. And I want to take my girlfriend, Carissa, out, but I got $17. This is a problem for a boyfriend, okay? Luckily, in Salem at the time, downtown on the waterfront, there was this big, I don't know what it was, kind of big festival going on. There's going to be like rides and food and concert stuff going on, just a kind of fun time Friday night in July. So we get some friends together, me and Chris and some friends, we're going to go on this date down to the waterfront. Now, thankfully, it's free. Like, there's no money to get in. Now, if you want to do anything there, it costs money, but at least you can get in there, you can walk around. So we go down together, and we're boyfriend, girlfriend, holding hands, doing the thing, walking around, and Carissa doesn't know how much money I have, but I wasn't going to tell her, but I'm thinking in my head, okay, we got to be strategic tonight. I got $17. So we're there probably half hour. It's hot out. The sun is starting to set, but Carissa says, "Man, I'm thirsty." And I was like, okay, let's get some lemonade. So we go over and get lemonade, and I had to spend $7 on 2 lemonades because I felt like at the 2-week mark, we weren't really to that stage of sharing a drink yet. That seemed like a little much. So we have to get 2 drinks. And so I bought her a drink. I bought myself a drink, like $3.50 each. Now I'm down to $10. We're drinking our drinks. Good night. We're walking around having fun with our friends. And then, Carissa, the sun has now set. It's dark out. It's nighttime. And there's this big Ferris wheel there at the waterfront. You know, you can get on and ride. And she goes, man, that would be fun to ride right now. And so I'm not an idiot, and so I'm like, okay, so like let's go walk by and see how long the line is. And so we're going over towards it, and I'm like looking as we're walking up, try to see how much it costs to ride, from the distance. Oh, get this, guys, $5 a ticket to get it. I have $10 left, and so we go up, and I my last $10 I pay, and this, I'll tell you what. This is a boyfriend's dream right here because I'm like, we're on the Ferris wheel. She's going to get scared on the way up there. You know what's going to happen? She's going to have to be real close to me because this is just like prime. It is well worth the $10. And so I spend that $10 and we ride that Ferris wheel. We're married today, so obviously $10 well spent. But we make it awesome, and I walk away from that Ferris wheel with literally nothing, $0. We go home. I work the whole next week. Luckily, I had enough gas in my gas tank to make it that whole week to get back and forth to work, and then I got that paycheck. I think, if I remember right, it was this, $748. I got that paycheck. And I remember getting that paycheck, $748, and that was the only time in my life I've ever felt like, wow, I'm rich. Because actually, 17-year-old Bryan, I'd never had a job. Like, all the money I had was because Grandma gave me $20 for my birthday or something, right? And so now, I was like, that's a lot of Ferris wheels right there. We can have a lot of fun with this $748. It was the only time in my life that I ever felt rich. And the problem that we struggle with here, as for the rich, is because in our heads we think, well, I'm not rich. Now, the reality is, and Jeff shared this last week, we are rich. Just by being here today, the reality is that we are rich. We just don't always feel that way, right? Why don't we feel that way? Well, 2 reasons. One, we're really good at playing the comparison game, are we not? I'm not rich, look at them. I'm not rich, look at them. There's always someone who has more. There's always someone that has something that I want. We're really good at playing the comparison game. We're also really good at thinking that happiness comes from money, that money is going to lead to happiness. So here's what we end up saying. I'm not happy, therefore I'm not rich. Because if I was happy, then I'd actually have enough. Was it Rockefeller who said, how much is enough? And then he answered the question, just a little bit more. That will be enough. He has millions. If I could just have a little bit more. It's interesting. Study after study has shown, people that make $30,000 a year, they'll say this, I'll be happy when I make $60,000. Those who make $60,000, I'll be happy when I got $100,000 coming in. Those who have $100,000, man, if I just get $200,000 coming in every year, then I will be happy. That the problem when we come to this passage is that we don't feel rich, but we are. In fact, we're told to those who are rich in this present age, and if you fast forward all the way to the end, there is a God who richly provides for us everything to enjoy. He has provided for you. You are rich. Now, let me just make sure we get this straight, okay? Number one, our goal in doing this short little series is not to get something from you. I want something for you. We're not trying to make the church richer by walking through this series. And actually, even more than that, my goal isn't to make you feel guilty when it comes to money. My goal is for you to feel responsible when it comes to money. Not guilty, but responsible. So let's think through this verse 17. As for the rich in this present age, charge them. There are 2 things we're not to do: be haughty or arrogant, not to set our hope on the uncertainty of riches, but actually to place our hope on God. And here's what Jeff said last week. This will sum up where we've been. Jeff said this: put your hope in the source, not the resource. This is what we learned last week. You put your hope not in the resource, money, financially, whatever God may give us. Those are the good things God has given us. We enjoy them, but our hope is not set there. Where is it set? It's set on a God who richly provides. Put your hope in the source, not in the resource. In other words, you can possess money, or money can possess you, right? You can possess money, or you can actually be controlled by the need for more money. Now, with that in mind, we're going to press into verse 18. But let me set up verse 18. I already told you the Bible has a lot to say. Jesus has a lot to say to those who are wealthy, to those who are rich. Let me just show you a few, okay? Let me give you a snapshot of the warnings of Jesus. Matthew chapter 19, verse 23, here's what Jesus said. Jesus said to his disciples, "Truly I say to you, only with difficulty will a rich person enter the kingdom of heaven." Only with difficulty. He actually says it's difficult for someone who has a lot of money to become a Christian, for them to enter the kingdom of God. Why might that be? Because you've placed all of your hope, your security is found in what you have. Maybe you haven't learned to really trust in Jesus. In Luke chapter 6, here's what Jesus would say, "But woe to you who are rich, for you have received your consolation." Consolation. You've received your award. Here's what Jesus says, "Woe to you, you who are rich, because you haven't entered the kingdom of God, because you haven't put your faith in that. Your reward is 80 years of life with money, but you miss out of all of eternity." Like, woe to you. Man, you lived it up. You had what you wanted for 80 years, but you missed out on all of eternity. These are the warnings of Jesus. Jesus in Matthew chapter 13 is going to tell this parable about the soils, seed that's thrown in different places, and some of it grows and some of it doesn't. One of the soils identified is the one with the thorns. And here's what Jesus says, "As for what is sown among the thorns, this is the one who hears the word, but the cares of the world and the deceitfulness of riches choke the word, and it proves unfruitful." So those who hear the word, right here, hear the Bible, they hear the teaching instruction of Jesus, but because of the cares of this world, and secondly, the deceitfulness of riches, they abandon this, it's choked out, and they chase after what the world might say, what money might draw us to. Here's the last one. James, the brother of Jesus, would say this, "Come now, you rich, weep and howl for the miseries that are coming upon you." Oh, okay. Whoa. That's pretty intense. Like, my point is, I just want to set this up to say this. There's a lot of warnings in the Bible about the dangers of money. That you can possess money, but money can also possess you. So the question is, how do we get money right? How do we begin to think about it in a right way? Last week we said, man, put your hope in the source, not the resource. Now let's come to verse 18 because we're going to get more instruction here. Look at, he's going to give us 4 commands in this verse. Verse 18, count them with me as we go. They are, that's they, the rich, are to 1, do good, 2, to be rich in good works, 3, to be generous, and 4, ready to share. 4 different commands given to those who are rich. Do good, be rich in good works, be generous, be ready to share. Now, I got one kind of simple, overarching point for you, and it's this. Generosity keeps our hearts free from money's control. This is what we're going to learn today. To those who are rich, yes, place your hope in the right thing, but you know what's really going to help you? To be generous, because generosity keeps our hearts free from the control of money. You guys ever hear of how a monkey is caught in Africa? Monkeys, they're pretty crafty, I know. They're pretty crafty. They get away. They're hard to trap. So if you got a hunter, someone trying to trap a monkey, they always get away. But you know what they discovered? This is so crazy to me. They take a jar just like this, and they throw some maybe nuts in there, acorns, or like fruit even down in there, and they just set it at the base of a tree. Monkey comes down from the tree, and the monkey puts his hand in there, grabs onto it, but then because he grabs on to what's ever in there, can't pull it out. Monkey becomes frustrated, won't release it, holds his hand there, and actually, for whatever reason, will just sit there by the tree, trying to get it out, will not be able to get it out. And the hunter will come along, trap that monkey, take the monkey away. They are trapped. Think about this. They are trapped because they are unwilling to let go of something, and that very something is the very thing that is working against them. Right? They're unwilling to let go of it, and so they find themselves trapped. The danger of money is that you would grab it, hold on to it, make it our source of life and hope, and we'd find ourselves clinging to it, that we'd actually find ourselves trapped. And so what is the teaching we're going to see here? It's simply this, that generosity, releasing it, is actually what keeps our hearts free from money's control, from the trap of money. The danger of money We're already told in verse 17that it would produce in you an arrogance, that it would produce in you a false hope. It is answered, getting our hope right, yes, and then by you being generous. The answer is generosity. So the best way for money not to control you, the best way actually to be happy and enjoy, as verse 17 said, what God has given you, is to be generous, to release it. Generosity means that we loosen our grip on the money that God has given us, which, here's the deal, let's just be straight, you and me, that's a scary thing. It's a hard thing. You know why? Because so often money is where we find our identity, our security. It's where we find our status and our hope. It's a hard thing to release. But generosity is the very thing that we are told here that leads to freedom when it comes to money. Okay, look back at verse 18 here. I want you to notice the 4 commands: do good, be rich in good works, be generous, ready to share. Let's kind of split it into 2 categories, okay? Let's talk about these first 2. They are to do good and be rich in good works. Now, if we were to do a bad exegete of this passage, a bad studying of the Bible, and we were to only look at this verse, not in context, then these first 2 commands would have not inherently anything to do with money, right? Like, you don't have to have money to do good or to be rich in good works. And we know that is true. It doesn't matter how much money you have. You can do good. You can be rich. In fact, we're actually told, be rich in doing good. It doesn't have anything to do necessarily with how much you have. When your hope is in money, that will become our pursuit. But when our hope is in Jesus, the one who richly provides, it frees us to pursue doing good. Now, there is a message here because in the context, we're talking about those who are rich. The wealthy, those who are rich, ought to use their lives and their money to do genuinely good and noble things. In fact, that word rich, which appears here again, to be rich, last week we defined rich as simply as to have more, to have extra, to have abundance. And so what we're told here is do good, but actually do extra in doing good. Do more, do abundance in doing good. Being rich is not so much about what you have. Being rich is about what you do. So we are called here to do good. Let me say it this way. We are called to strategic service, to intentionally think, how can I do good for this person? How can I be rich in good works? Intentionally use my life, resources, and money for the good of others. Intentionally be about goodness. It helps me to ask it in the form of questions. So I jotted down 3 questions. I'm going to throw them on the screen, just questions to ask. Number 1, what do they need that I might be able to help with? This is called strategic service. This is being good with what God has given us. What do they need? I look around and I see people. What do they need that I might be able to help with? Secondly, how can I add value instead of adding pressure? How could I use the resources God has given me to add value to their life instead of added on pressure? Number 3, would it help if I handled blank? Would it help if I handled this for you? This was about 10 years ago. There were 2 students. They graduated from our college ministry. They got married. They're living in Portland, working jobs. And I got a text message from them one day, and it said, hey, Bryan, what are you doing this Saturday? Like, oh, we're not really doing anything. And it was back when I had 2 kids. And the wife said, hey, why don't you come up to Portland? We want to watch your kids. Bring your 2 girls. We're going to watch them. And then we have money we're going to give you. We want you to go out to dinner. You pick the restaurant, and you go and have fun. And you come back and pick up your kids. Like, would it help if we handled your kids for you? Would it help if we gave you money so you could go out to eat? Like, this is what it means to do good, to be rich in good works. Yes, it would be. It would be helpful. Okay, go back to verse 18 again. So we're told the first 2, do good, be rich in good works, and secondly, be generous and ready to share. Now, this specifically has to do with money. To be generous is to be benevolent, charitable, hospitable, liberal with our money, unselfish. It does not mean to be unwise or carefree. It means to be unselfish and sacrificial, to live with an open hand towards others, not a closed hand. Like, we should respond to verse 17. We should respond to the goodness of God that He richly provides for you with gratitude and generosity. God, thank you that you have provided. Now I'm going to be generous with what you have given me. I wonder, hey, listen, think about this just for you guys. Would people describe you as generous? Would people? Like if we said, hey, describe Bryan in 5 words, would people say Bryan's generous? Is that what would rise to the top? How would people describe you? We're also told that we should be ready to share. I have 4 kids. Here's what I've learned. Kids don't like to share. True? Kids don't like to share. Here's what I've learned as pastor. People don't like to share either. They don't. We're selfish. Like we like to keep for ourselves. Here's what's interesting. I was actually stunned by this. This is Barna research. They said of those making $60,000 a year, Christian, non-Christian, just making $60,000 a year, the average American gives away 6% of that every single year. That's a high number. I actually didn't think it'd be that high. That 6%, Christian, non-Christian, goes to charity somewhere, disaster relief somewhere, or goes to the church some way, they give it away. $60,000, they're giving away 6% to just giving away in some way. But what the study found that I thought was super interesting, of those making $150,000, Christian, non-Christian, just living in America, those make $150,000, they only give away 4%. Isn't that interesting? That actually the richer you get, the less likely you are to be generous. And this is the very thing that Paul is teaching Timothy here. Watch out, because our money can control us. And the only actual way to find freedom is generosity. Generosity keeps our hearts free from money's control. This is what is true. So now let me help us, okay? Here's what I'm going to do with kind of the rest of my time up here, is I want to help us be generous. And in order to do that, I don't normally preach this way, but I want to do kind of 3 categories. I want to go heart, head, hands, okay? Just want to help you. Because I hope we just laid out a kind of a solid foundation to say this. I don't want to be controlled by money. I don't want to put my hope in money. I want to be generous. But how do we do that, okay? Heart, head, hands. So let's start with our hearts. Let's back up now to verse 6 in chapter 6. Because Paul is going to deal with money even earlier in this chapter. It says this, but godliness with, underline this word, contentment is great gain. Contentment. We're going to come back to that word in a moment. Godliness with contentment is great gain. Verse 7, for we brought nothing into the world, and we cannot take anything out of the world. That's true, right? You were born with nothing. You're going to die. You can't take it with you. Just simple principle laid out before you. Verse 8, but if we have food and clothing, with these we will be, here it is again, content. Content. So the first issue I want to deal with is the heart. Let me say it this way. The heart, be content with what God has given you. In other words, you will never be generous until you're content with where you are in life right now. If we're always wanting more, you know how hard it is to release then? If we're always holding on because we want more? We have to learn to be content. And I got to tell you, contentment's a hard thing. That's a frustrating word right there. It means I don't need more. It means I'm okay. I mean, honestly, discontentment, this is not true. Discontentment is what drives our unnecessary, irresponsible, at times harmful spending habits. Anyone ever made a discontent purchase to regret it later? I thought I needed that. Oh, only to come back and I wish I just would have not needed that. Turns out I didn't. I'd actually be wealthier if I had been content. In fact, that's what Paul is teaching us here. Paul says contentment is great gain. In other words, contentment is more valuable than the things you acquired because of your discontentment. You thought, in my discontentment, if I'd have that, this would make me better, this would make life better, this would make me happier. And Paul is saying, no, what's most valuable actually is godliness with contentment. I'm living rightly, and I'm content with what God has given me. What you're looking for isn't found in more. It's actually just a change of heart. I will be content with what God has placed in front of me. And now notice verse 9 and 10, Paul is going to lay out the dangers of discontentment. Look at the dangers. There's a lot of them. But those who desire to be rich, this is discontent, that want more, fall into temptation, into a snare, into many senseless and harmful desires that plunge people into ruin and destruction. For the love of money is a root of all kinds of evil. It is through the cravings that some have wandered away from faith and pierced themselves with many pangs. Did you catch that? There is a lot of danger that comes from discontentment. Let me list them for you. When you're discontent, you are more likely to fall into temptation, fall into a snare, a trap. You are likely to be controlled by harmful, habit-forming decisions. You're likely to plunge headfirst into ruin, headfirst into destruction. When you're discontent, you will likely to wander from the faith. When you're discontent, you will pierce yourself with many pangs, with many griefs. You will pierce your hearts. This is the danger. There's a real danger to your spiritual life when you are not content with your physical life and what God has provided. So you want to be generous? Consider the heart. Do I really need that? Will I be content? We go from the heart now to the head. Here's the head. Remember who owns it all. Remembers whose it is. Everything we have is God's to begin with. It's not mine. I'm simply a steward of what God has given me. We understand ownership, don't we? It's funny how we use words. I might say to you, hey, will you want to come meet me in my office at 10 o'clock on Wednesday morning? It might even say, hey, look at my computer here. Let me show you some stuff. You know what's funny about both those phrases? It's not my office. It's Redemption Church's office. It's not my computer. The church bought it. It's theirs. I have a truck, and people ask to borrow. It's the curse of a truck owner. People often ask to borrow my truck to use it for something. When someone borrows my truck, how much of that truck do they own? 5%? 10%? 0%. They don't own any of it. How much of it do I own? Actually, get this, 0. God owns it all. In fact, that's what verse 17 was teaching us. The God who richly provides everything for our enjoyment. God's the one who's provided it for me. I just get to steward it. I get to use it right now for enjoyment, for good. And actually, because I have it, now I can do verse 18. Do good, richly do good, be generous, and share with others. You are a steward of the resources God has given you. So here's my question. Do you live like it? Do you live like that? Like what God has given you, you simply are stewarding for a time? If you want to be generous, know this. It's all God's. I'm just responsible for taking care of it today. Remember who owns it all. I think there are two things that run through our head. Number one, it's not mine, so I can release it, right? It's not mine to begin with, so I'm able to give. I can release that. Here's the second thing. When I give and I release, I am losing something. That is true. I am losing something, but because God is the one who owns it all, He can continue to take care of me. I don't mean that in a health, wealth, prosperity way, like if you give away, God's going to bless you, you're going to get 100 times back. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying this because God is the one who controls it all, He will provide for you. I had a pastor tell a story, him talking with someone in his church, and the guy had come up to him, maybe it was after a message like this about giving and being generous, and the guy said, man, I really love to give to church. I love to give money to church. I just can't do it. And the pastor said, oh, why not? And he said, we get to the end of the month, every month, we have no money left. You know, we got bills and mortgage and rent, whatever, all this stuff. We just really can't do it. So the pastor said, oh, okay, I'm sorry. How about this? If you give to the church and you get to the end of the month, the pastor said, I will take care of your bills. You need to go get groceries, I'll go buy them. If you need that electricity bill paid, I'll go pay it. And the guy's eyes light up. He's like, sure. Gets out and he gives money right there. And the pastor says, I just did a pastor trick on you. Turns out you trust me more than you trust God. Right? Like, why isn't we wouldn't trust God in the first place? The one who richly provides, that He'll take care of us. You see, because we don't own it, this is a head issue for you. I understand this, that what God has given me is His. And so when I give, when I am generous, when I'm ready to share with it in a good way, He can provide. Okay, so we want to be generous. We get the right heart. We get the right mindset. Now here's the last thing, hands. Have a plan. Have a plan. Now here's the deal. This is the point of the message where good preachers tell a really good story right here, and it leaves you all like, yeah! We're going to leave, and we're going to be generous. Look how awesome it is. They tell stories like this. 5 years ago, we're doing the Thanksgiving food box drive, and there's this family in our church, mom and dad, 2 kids. They take two Thanksgiving food boxes they're going to go fill. I didn't know they had taken it. Actually, about a week and a half before Thanksgiving, I called them up because I know their kind of financial situation. I actually called them and say, hey, could Redemption Church provide you with a Thanksgiving food box? We'd like to do that because I know it's been hard and things going on. We'd like to provide it for you. And I'm talking to the dad on the phone. He says, actually, we took 2 boxes, and it's okay. Me and my wife, my kids, we prayed about this, and we took 2 boxes. We all agreed that on Thanksgiving Day, it's just our family. We're going to be together. We're going to have cereal and sandwiches. We're going to play games and watch football. And we're going to take, instead of having Thanksgiving ourselves, we're going to make sure another family has it. What? Is that not crazy? See, so I could tell those stories, okay? We could tell those stories all day. And you will leave here and be like, yeah, let's go be generous. But here's the reality, guys. If you don't actually have a plan, then your generosity will be spontaneous and sparingly done, right? Because it's with a plan that we actually are able to be generous people. So let me kind of lay this out for you, kind of 3 thoughts. How do we have a plan? Here's what you can do this week, all right? Number 1, take inventory of your spending. This is activity. I don't care how much money you make, how much sitting in your bank account. What if you just went for the past month and said, where have we spent our money? Husband and wife, sit down. Where's our money going? You're single, sit down. Where's my money going? My guess is it's actually easy to track because no one uses paper money anymore. It's like on credit cards, bank account. You can go look. Itemize it out. Where is my money going? Taking inventory, I'll tell you this is hard because it might actually expose an idol in your life, right? So here, husband and wife, let me tell you this. Take inventory, but not for the purpose of, see what you did? No, let's take that off the table, okay? Let's take inventory to say, how can we get a hold of this in a way that we can ultimately be generous, right? Because God has given it to me. So if he's gifted it to you, you should know where our money is going. So take inventory of your spending. Here's the second thing. Make a budget. Make a budget. I know this is simple. Dave Ramsey would be proud. Make a budget. Start with how much money. This is simple. Start with how much money you make each month and begin to itemize it out. This is how we're going to spend it. This is how we're going to spend it. This is how we're going to spend it. Dave Ramsey said it this way. A budget is telling your money where to go instead of wondering where it went. That's what a budget is. This is how I'm going to spend my money. That's how I'm going to spend my money. I just say this from up front for you guys. I've been married 19 and a half years. 10 years ago, me and my wife, Carissa, we decided to budget, and it changed our lives. Radically changed our lives. For the first 10 years of marriage, we did not budget. Now, thankfully, we didn't make, I don't think, unwise decisions with our money. We made money each month, and we didn't spend more than that. We didn't rack up credit card debt in any way. We paid off our cars and school bills. We did all of that. We weren't in debt, any debt in any way. But every month, it was kind of like we made a certain amount, and we spent it all, and we never really saved. We gave to our church, but we weren't really able to be generous with other people. And so what we did is we sat down, and we made a budget. And when we made a budget, it allowed us to be generous. And here's what we did. We just sat down and said, okay, here's how much we're bringing in each month. And we started with, because listen, budget's about priorities. And the budget reveals your priorities. So this is how we started. We just said this. This is how much we want to give. This is how much we want to be generous with. This is how much we're going to give to our church. But we want to be more than that. We want to set aside money so we have money that we can give to help someone that might need help. So we could buy a meal for this family. We can invite people over. We can hang out together, and we can pay for it. We don't have to worry about that. That's just where we started. And we got to pay our mortgage, got to pay for gas, got to pay utilities. We need to buy food. You know what ends up at the bottom of that? Eating out, the fun activities. Let's see where it all pans out. But all of a sudden, we made a budget, and we got the priorities right. Listen, it just freed us up to be generous. You will never be generous unless you have a plan. You won't. You'll just kind of, oh yeah, we got some extra dollars, just kind of throw it. But when you hear a need, you won't be able to strategically serve them unless you have a plan. No one falls into generosity. You must plan for it. On this coming Saturday, we're going to have a memorial service, funeral for Pat Alexander. You might have known her, 1 o'clock right here. Pat and Ken passed away a couple years ago. They were longtime members here at Redemption Church, an incredible, generous couple. He worked for the church for decades, here, other churches. I didn't make a lot of money, but they were so faithful in being generous. I cannot tell you how many times that they came into my office with some money and said, hey, I got $100. Can you make sure this family gets it in the church? I know they're struggling. Hey, we have $200. Can we make sure to fund that program? We want to see it happen. Here's $50. Can we make sure this happens? This is what they would do. You know why they did it? Because they had a plan, right? Because they just took care of the money that was coming in. This is how we're going to spend it. And so when we get to the end of the month, we know we have this money and we're able to be generous with it. Make a plan. Ultimately, here's the deal. We are generous because God has been generous to us, not just in providing for our earthly needs, not just for the food we might need, the shelter we might want, the clothing we would have, not just in that way, but he has been generous in sending Jesus. Jesus who died on the cross on our behalf for our sins. He was buried and he rose again. For the wages of sin is death, but the gift of God is eternal life, the gift of God. He has been generous to you and me. So we're going to take communion together. I'm going to have Sean play on the piano for us, but here's how this is going to work. Maybe this is your first time doing communion with us at Redemption Church. We're going to pass out the bread. It's going to go down the aisles. You're going to take one, and here's what I want you to do. I just want you to take some time to pray. Pray. One, thank God that he's been generous to you, both spiritually and physically, that he's been generous to you. But then we're actually told, the Bible tells us that when we take communion, we ought to evaluate our hearts. So I just want to give you some time. As we pass it out, you would pray and say, Holy Spirit, God, would you reveal sin in my life? And I want you to confess it. Let's be a confessing church, that you would just pray to God, God, I'm sorry. I've sinned. Go before him in that. I'll come back up here. We'll take the bread together. We'll remember his body together as a church. Then we'll do the same thing. We'll pass out the cup. You'll get it, and you're going to be praying. God, thank you for your blood that was shed. We know without the shedding of blood, there'd be no forgiveness of sin. So we want to thank God. And maybe we even pray, God, because you've been so generous to me, would you open my eyes for ways that I can be generous to others? Would you help me to plan so that I can be generous towards others? It's all yours to begin. Would you pray those prayers? And then I'll come back up and we'll take it together, remembering his blood poured out for us. So take a moment. They're going to pass out the bread. Take some time to pray. I'll come back up in a moment.